India's Digboi, where Asia's oil story began before the Middle East. In the darkness of the night, an elephant was slowly returning through the forests of Assam. There was no mud on its feet, but rather a black, sticky, oily layer. When British engineers saw this, they felt that some secret was hidden beneath the ground. The forest was quiet, but the earth seemed to be giving a sign of some big treasure. Fear and curiosity were both running together. If this was really oil, it was not just a liquid coming out of the ground, but could be the energy to change the entire economy. Today, when people hear the name of crude oil, they remember Saudi Arabia, UAE, Iran, Iraq, and Kuwait. But in Asia's oil story, India's chapter is very old. Many people think that the beginning of crude oil in Asia must have been from the Middle East, because today a large petroleum influence of the world comes from there. But the story is not that simple. Digboi in India's Assam is the place that gave birth to the Indian oil industry and made its own distinct identity in energy history. Digboi is not just the name of a refinery, it is the story of that era when the dense forests of Assam, railway lines, and colonial exploration laid the foundation of India's oil future. In the 19th century, railway and infrastructure work was going on in Assam. Workers, engineers, and animals used to pass through the forests, and right then, signs of oil seepage began to be noticed. It is often told in the story that British engineers saw black oily mud on the feet of elephants. They understood that a natural oil seep could be present beneath the ground. After this, drilling efforts began. Around 1889, activity related to commercial oil discovery intensified in the Digboi area, and this very place came to be called the birthplace of India's petroleum industry. Here one thing should be understood carefully. Different historical sources define Asia's first oil discovery and first refinery in different ways, because differences are found regarding Asia's geography and early oil sites. But in the context of Indian oil history, the importance of Digboi is undisputed. IndianOil calls it the birthplace of India's oil industry and the Gangotri of the hydrocarbon sector. The Digboi Refinery was commissioned in 1901. At that time, the beginning of modern petroleum refining in India was at a very initial stage. This refinery is counted even today among the world's oldest operating refineries. This is its biggest historical strength, that even after such a long time, its production link has not broken. Compared to the Middle East, this timeline is very interesting. Commercial oil production in Saudi Arabia started in 1938 from Dammam No. 7. The oil discovery in UAE is considered to be linked to the Murban Bab field in 1958. That means decades before the Middle East's oil superpower image was formed, India's oil journey had already started in Digboi. But the difference was that giant oil reserves were found later in the Middle East, which changed the global energy map. In India, Digboi remained a symbolic and strategic birthplace, but the reserves were not massive like the Middle East. This is the reason why today Saudi Arabia and the UAE look dominant in world oil markets, while Digboi is a symbol of heritage, history, and Indian energy beginnings. The story of how Digboi got its name is equally famous. It is said that British engineers used to encourage workers by saying, "Dig, boy, dig." Slowly this very voice became the local identity, and the name of the place became famous as Digboi. This story sounds like a folklore, but it is a part of Digboi's popular memory. Think about it, a command that must have been given to workers to dig the mud later became the identity of a town, a refinery, and Indian oil history. The initial refining capacity in Digboi was very small. According to IndianOil, the initial capacity of the refinery was around 500 barrels per day. In that era, this capacity might seem small, but back then for India it was a very big industrial step. This was the beginning of not just extracting oil, but changing it into usable fuel. By 1940, its refining capacity was increased to 0.5 mmtpa. This expansion shows the industrial demand and strategic importance of that time. In the era of the World War, the importance of petroleum had increased greatly. Transport, military movement, industry, and machines all started to depend on oil-based energy. Digboi played an important industrial role at that time in India's eastern frontier. Assam did not remain a region of just tea and forests, but also came onto the energy map. The ownership of the refinery also changed with time. Earlier it was linked with the Burma Oil Company under the Assam Oil Company Limited. On the 14th of October 1981, it came into the fold of Indian Oil Corporation Limited and became the Assam Oil Division of IOC. This transition was a movement from a private colonial legacy toward a national energy system. Today Digboi Refinery operates under IndianOil. It is located in Digboi town of Tinsukia district, Assam. Digboi is called the Gangotri of the Indian hydrocarbon sector because this is the source story from where the journey of the Indian oil industry is understood. The word Gangotri is emotional. Just as the beginning of the Ganga is linked to Gangotri, similarly the beginning of the Indian oil industry is linked to Digboi. This refinery is not just an industrial unit making petrol or diesel. It is also the initial story of India's engineering memory, colonial past and energy self-reliance. According to IndianOil, Digboi Refinery processes high wax content crude. This means the crude found here is such that the amount of waxy components in it is significant. For this very reason, Digboi also produces paraffin wax. Paraffin wax is used in candles, packaging, cosmetics, pharma and many industrial applications. Digboi Refinery also makes products like LPG, motor spirit meaning petrol, high-speed diesel, furnace oil, sulfur and raw petroleum coke. This shows that a refinery is not limited just to the fuel pump. By refining crude oil, many kinds of products are made, which are used in daily life and industry. Another special thing about Digboi is that it is located in a biodiversity-rich region. The existence of the refinery amidst Assam's greenery, forests and ecology makes environmental responsibility even more important. According to IndianOil, Digboi Refinery was the first refinery among IOCL refineries to become BSVI compliant. This was an important step in the direction of modern emission norms. BSVI fuel standards mean cleaner fuel quality, which helps in reducing vehicle emissions. It is not easy for such an old refinery to run with modern standards. For this, technology upgrades, process improvements and compliance discipline are needed. In 1996, the refinery capacity was augmented to 0.65 mmtpa. Now the project to expand it to 1.0 mmtpa is underway. According to the latest information from IndianOil, the commissioning target of this expansion project is July 2027. On the India investment grid, the project completion date is shown as the 31st of July 2027. This expansion is not just the work of increasing capacity. It is a message that Digboi is not just a museum piece, but is still an operating energy asset. India today is among the world's large oil consumers. Our energy demand comes from transport, industry, agriculture, aviation and households. But India imports a large part of its crude oil. Therefore, both domestic exploration and refining capacity hold strategic importance. Digboi reminds us that the story of energy security does not begin only with large ports, mega refineries and global contracts. Sometimes its beginning happens from an oil seep seen in a forest. Today, India has capacities included in the world's largest refining complexes like Jamnagar. But the roots of that modern scale go somewhere back to early industrial experiments like Digboi. While comparing Digboi and the Middle East, we should understand the difference in scale and timeline. India made an early start, but huge reserves were found in the Middle East. Saudi Arabia's Dammam No. 7 discovery changed the kingdom's destiny. Their oil gave a new shape to the economy, geopolitics and global influence. The Murban discovery in UAE fueled the development story of Abu Dhabi and later the entire UAE. Oil revenue made the foundation of infrastructure, cities and sovereign wealth. In India, Digboi played a different role. It gave India its first experience of petroleum exploration, drilling, refining, and industrial processing. This experience became the foundation for future engineers, energy policy, and the refining ecosystem. Therefore, the value of Digboi cannot be measured merely by production numbers. If someone asks why Digboi is important, the answer is simple. Because it shows that India was not just a buyer in energy history, it was an explorer too. We did not learn just to import oil, but we also learned to extract it from the ground, refine it, and turn it into an industrial product. The story of Digboi also connects with the railway. In the 19th century, transport infrastructure connected forests and remote areas, and in this very process, the identification of mineral and oil resources grew. The connection between railway tracks and oil discovery shows that infrastructure often makes hidden resources visible. When a road, rail line or pipeline reaches a remote region, it does not just change the movement of people, the search for resources also intensifies. Digboi town also developed because of oil. The refinery, workers, housing, services and local economy build the identity of an energy town. Even today in Digboi, the Oil Museum and Heritage Memory connect people to that old industrial era, when machines, steam, drills and colonial maps were together writing history. But there is an emotional side to this story too. The workers who did drilling and refinery work in difficult conditions at that time silently contributed to the industrial foundation of modern India. Building an oil industry amidst forest, rain, limited technology, and a remote location was not easy. Back then, there were no safety systems, digital control rooms, and logistics like today. Therefore, Digboi is not just a story of engineers. It is a story of laborers, local communities, and that region as well, which gave ground to India's oil journey. Energy history is often written with the names of big leaders and companies. But the real production comes from those hands that dig the earth, join pipelines, and run machines. The refinery of Digboi has seen a journey of more than 125 years. Colonial rule, independence, nationalization, modernization, and the clean fuel era all came before it. Very few industrial assets in history remain relevant for such a long time. The continuity of Digboi turns it from an ordinary refinery into a heritage institution. But we must also understand that being an old refinery means not just pride but responsibility too. Technology upgrade, safety, emissions, and environmental care remain continuously necessary. In an ecologically sensitive region like Assam, industrial operations have to move forward by making a balance with local communities and nature. Today is an era of energy transition. The world is moving toward electric vehicles, hydrogen, solar, and cleaner fuels. Even so, crude oil has not disappeared from the global economy yet. The role of oil in aviation, petrochemicals, transport, and industry is still very big. In this transition era, a refinery like Digboi looks to us like a bridge between the past and the future. On one side, the beginning of the oil age, on the other side, the need for cleaner energy. The lesson for India is clear. We have to take pride in oil history too, and work on future energy security too. Domestic refining, strategic reserves, diversified imports, biofuels, EVs, and renewables all will have to be taken along together. The story of Digboi does not say that India was an oil superpower like the Middle East. It says that in Asia's industrial energy journey, India's initial contribution was very important. When the world talks about the Saudi oil boom, we should remember that long before that, the story of oil discovery and refining had already started on the land of Assam. This story changes our imagination. India has been not just a land of ancient civilization, but also a land of early industrial energy experiments. Today, if a student hears the name of Digboi, he should understand it not just as a town in Assam, but as the starting point of the Indian oil industry. If an entrepreneur sees this, he will understand that every big industry sometimes starts from a small discovery. If a policymaker reads this, he will remember that resources and heritage hidden in remote regions should not be ignored. And if an ordinary viewer hears this, he will feel that India's story is many times far more interesting than our textbooks. Because sometimes history does not start in a palace, but in a jungle from the black mud on an elephant's feet. That very mud later becomes Digboi, becomes a refinery, becomes fuel, and then changes into the energy memory of an entire nation. Today, Saudi Arabia and the UAE are the world's oil giants, there is no doubt about it. But India's Digboi lit its torch in energy history long before them. And this is the real legacy of Digboi. It tells us that where people were seeing just a forest, some people saw the energy of the future. Because this story of oil is not just about the crude hidden beneath the earth, it is a story of curiosity, courage, technology, and that exploration which connected India to the hydrocarbon age.
If this video has taught you something new, or if you feel this information should reach more people, don't forget to like and share the video. Your small share can become valuable and useful information for someone else. If you have any questions related to this topic, or if you would like to share your opinion with us, be sure to write in the comment box. We read every question and suggestion from you, because your feedback inspires us to create better content. And if you want to keep receiving such interesting and reliable information about business, the economy, and the world in the future, then don't forget to subscribe to our channel GRT Business and also press the bell icon so that you get notifications of every new video directly. At GRT Business, we always strive to provide you with accurate, balanced, and reliable information. Our news and analysis are prepared based on information obtained from various news agencies, public sources, and public opinion. We make every effort to verify and validate each fact as much as possible. But in case of any possible error or dispute, the responsibility lies with the respective sources. Our only aim is to present you with a correct and trustworthy perspective so that you can understand any topic better.